everybody. It's your old pal, Slim, and welcome to a special bonus episode of 70mm, a podcast for film fans just like you. With me, as always, is artist Danny Haas.
Hello.
And our spiritual advisor, Part Alexis.
Moses.
He's back. So as you may know from the last few weeks, every month we usually have a new theme that guides our movie choices. And this month it's different. We're doing Christmas in December. And that means each episode this month is a surprise to our entire community. We are not recording live in our Discord. We're just dropping them every Monday. And we made the decision to take the whole month off, to take a break, get these episodes recorded in the past weeks ago. So the fall of 70mm, still in full swing. Just to recap, we started with Die Hard, Proto, kick off the month. Remember that episode?
Yeah, at this point, we recorded that like 6 weeks ago. Feels like just like yesterday.
Or longer. And then by the time this episode posts, I mean, it's going to be like 3 months ago Die Hard was recorded.
Yeah, what did I even rate it? I have no idea.
I don't even know what I rated it.
Either.
I have no idea. God, we're in bad shape. And then we had, in my opinion, incredible recording experience. Park Chan-wook's Old Boy.
Gosh.
Will we even have a community to come back to
I know.
in January after that episode?
It's in ruins.
It's like pulling a pin out of a grenade and just running away for a month.
We're down to 100 patrons at this point.
And then last week was Christmas Vacation. That dropped on Christmas Day. Full disclosure, we actually haven't recorded that episode yet. By the time we're recording this, it's getting a little fuzzy, but I'm sure we had a great time talking about Clark and the fam, right?
How could we not?
So, but we're going to talk about Prince of Egypt. That's our main course this episode. This is our bonus feature. But we also, I think according to the calendar, next week will be our return. As of recording this, this will probably be one of our last recordings for a while. But then when this was released, we're coming back next week officially. We're going to be recording live. We're going to be back in the Discord doing all the shenanigans. So we need to announce officially what the heck episode 200 is. Napoleon was 199. We took a month off. So now we got to come back next week for episode 200. It's a big celebration. It's like been 4 years since we started this podcast, Danny.
Yeah.
Can you believe it's been that long?
No. I've actually forgotten most of the movies we've covered too.
We don't even know what we said about Die Hard, and that was 6 weeks ago.
Someone shared the 4K remaster recently of The Abyss. And I was like whooshed back to us.
Yeah.
Just even planning that first episode.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe we picked that for the first episode.
As soon as I got the Twitter account named 70mm Pod, that was all it took for us to get the wheels turning. Remember Twitter? God, what a time.
Yeah, I was looking back at some of our old episodes, and I think we're getting to the point where I wouldn't be surprised, like in the next year, one of us announces a pick, and then we're like, we actually did that movie.
It's going to be me, too. I'm going to be the dumb idiot that picks a movie twice. All right, so all of that to say is there's been a lot of questions about what the heck we're going to do for episode 200. I was actually at a hockey game recently with my friend Tom, who's in our Discord on my hockey team, and we were watching the game before us, and he's like, yeah, you guys are coming up on episode 200, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like looking at me, waiting for me to kind of like reveal my plans. He's like, I can't believe you're not telling me what you're doing. But the movie we're going to be doing is a big one, Parasite by Bong Joon-ho. That will be our episode 200. So, Pardo, what's the theme for January? Does it relate to that movie at all? We had a lot of ideas poking around, though, for the theme for January.
Yeah, I mean, it does relate to it. We're announcing the theme?
Yeah.
Announce it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Letterboxd 1 million watched list of movies.
Mm.
This is the theme for the month of January, which is going to be huge because you can look at this list on there. It's curated on Letterboxd. They keep it updated regularly. And I think there's almost like 200 movies on there, maybe?
248 movies
Wow.
in the Letterboxd 1 million watch club list. We'll have a link in the episode notes.
Yeah, and I've been looking through those movies. I mean, we were looking over it, and I was trying to make some initial thoughts. And I got like 4 movies, I
Really?
think, already that I'm thinking about. And I think all of them would be fantastic. So there's a ton of great movies on this list. I'm so excited to see what we watch.
The most watched films on the list, like the top 5 of the 1 million watch club. Like there's also a 2 million watch club, and I think there's a 3 million watch club. I think it's just Parasite and Joker. But I mean, number 1, Parasite. Number 2, Joker. Joker is in play. I repeat, Joker is in play. Number 3 is Fight Club as of recording. I have not seen Fight Club maybe since college. Maybe. The Dark Knight, already covered. Mental note, don't pick it again. We already covered it. And then Inception. Inception would be a fun episode. I haven't seen that in a long time either.
There's a bunch of Nolan movies on here. So we could be back.
The Hateful Eight is on this list. That jumped to the top of one of my potential picks. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to pick it. I just thought it would be interesting.
Also, Inglourious Basterds is on this list.
Aladdin. My God. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Wall-E.
The Conjuring.
Baby Driver.
Brave.
Thor
Baby
Ragnarok.
Driver. People probably just fell over here. Where's Ismail? Can we get a heat check on Ismail? Yeah, School of Rock, Spider-Man 2. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. One of Danny's favorite
Cripes.
movies. The Devil Wears Prada.
I think all of Jordan Peele's movies are on here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So
Should we
be
do
a great,
1917 again?
great month. So that will be recorded next week. Or actually, no, as this is dropping Monday, Thursday night, we'll be recording that in our Discord, and then that'll be out the January 7th. January 8th, I think, is the date. So we're close to being back in the swing of things. I think that's it. That's our big announcement. Parasite episode 200. Folks maybe want to rewatch that or watch for the first time in preparation for the big return. But this week it's Prince of Egypt from 1998.
Merry Christmas.
That was last week. We're all still eating the
Happy New
chocolate
Year.
mints. Yeah, this is New Year's Day, I think, when this is coming out.
Gosh.
I don't know do people do anything on New Year's Day? Like, do you do anything on New Year's Day, Prado? Do you like go to a relative's house or anything?
Not relatives, but we would do like a brunch with friends. We did have a really close friends that we'd have brunch with, but they moved to a different state, so we stopped doing that. But yeah, we'd like to do maybe something in the morning or, meet up with friends. But we don't have like a really solid tradition. One year I made homemade Cinnabons,
Oh my God.
Good Lord.
which was unreal. But then
Can
it
you do
took
that at
like
the lake house?
I could. The only caveat to that is it took my body about a month to recover. So
From cooking them or eating them?
eating them. They looked amazing
I
though.
mean, recently you were telling us about how you like injured your back playing frisbee golf or
Yeah.
ultimate golf or something. And I mean, have you recovered from that fully yet? Is your back healed?
It's I got to the chiropractor. Yeah, I'm feeling better. But my back is always kind of in touch and go.
Disarray.
Yeah. I probably just have to go every week.
Wow. Danny, do you do anything for New Year's Day or Eve?
No, I don't. I'm going to say no, and I'm probably wrong in case you'll let me know when she hears this. I don't think we do anything. We don't even do anything in the evening. I feel like we're probably just playing Apex and we kiss at midnight. We get our characters close enough.
We meet in the middle of the map and try to touch lips before someone murders us with an assault rifle.
I'm with you more at midnight on New
I
Year's
think
Eve
you're
than I
right.
am
I'm trying to
my
think
wife.
back. What the heck have I done New Year's Eve last year's? There's probably been Apex Battle Royale. Yeah, I don't know. New Year's Day, I don't even know what the heck. Historically, I'm usually working on New Year's Day. Actually, no. Last year would have been my first New Year's at Letterboxd. Probably didn't do it. I probably watched a movie. I'll have to see what I watched on New Year's Day. Maybe we'll add to the tradition Prince of Egypt. Maybe that's
It's a
what
good
people will
tradition.
do on their New Year's
Oh,
Day.
that's
I like
what I
that.
did. My first movie of the year, January 1st, is Top Gun Maverick.
Oh my
Let me
God.
let me see what I did.
Should we pivot?
Let me look at my
Go to your
page
stats.
here. Everyone load up your stats on Letterboxd. Boop beep, boop beep, boop beep, boop beep, boop beep.
Did I watch a movie January 1st? Oh my God.
Tell me it was Prince of Egypt. Tell me.
January 1st, I watched. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's February. No movies. I thought I watched Full Metal Jacket on New Year's Day.
Oh my God. No, I'm actually looking at mine. I usually watch my dad's favorite movies around New Year's. So I watched The Court Jester this past year with Danny Kaye, Red Skeleton. And then the year before that was a bunch of his favorite movies. Actually, no, 1917 apparently I rewatched on January 1st. I have no idea why I did that.
It looks like it looks like New Year's Eve, Casey and I watch When Harry Met Sally.
Oh,
Banger.
That's our New Year's Eve movie.
literally. All right, Prince of Egypt, 1998. We've been talking about this one probably since the start of the podcast. I think Danny, maybe Danny and Proto both have been talking about it. I have never seen it before until this viewing. It's the first time.
Wait, this was your first
This
viewing?
was it.
of
This was the
movie?
first viewing, yeah. And also all of the songs I don't think I've ever heard before.
Oh,
So when you guys were like referencing on the show and you guys were like singing lines, I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a song that they're singing.
Oh
to
no,
each other.
I'm
I have no
worried
idea.
now.
So Proto, what's this movie about?
so I think it's rather appropriate to watch this in December, Christmas time, because as we all know, Jesus and Moses was a foreshadowing prequel, some would say, to Jesus. A lot of similarities.
Moses and of Songbirds and Snakes, I think was the original name of the Ten Commandments.
And just to if you missed the previous episodes in the Bible, you know, God chooses Abraham, the father of the Israelites. You know, Abraham had many sons had father Abraham. He has Isaac. Isaac begets Jacob. Jacob has 12 sons. 12.
What are the chances?
What are the chances? And he has Joseph. Of course, Joseph gets sold into slavery, but he's really good at interpreting dreams. He becomes buddy-buddy with the Pharaoh. Then he gets his whole family, his father, all the Hebrews. They move to Egypt. They're having a great time. Time goes on. He dies. The new pharaohs, and the Hebrews begin to multiply. You know, they're just popping them out. He gets worried. He turns them into slaves to stop them. That doesn't really suppress it at all. They continue to explode in population, and then the pharaoh says, "Hey, I got a great idea. Why don't we just kill all the Hebrew baby boys?" So he tries to do that, but Moses is born. His mom puts him in a basket. He floats down the river. Pharaoh's household picks him up. He becomes a son of the Pharaoh. He finds out as he grows up that he is actually a Hebrew. In this telling of the story, he's buddy with Ramses. He leaves Egypt. He finds God up on Mount Sinai. I think actually, is it Mount Sinai when he first goes out?
Where he sees the burning bush?
Yeah.
Was it Mount Sinai? I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe it's a
The end
different
of
mountain.
Mount Sinai.
Maybe it is. We'll get ChatGPT on this.
Yeah, we'll look it up. But then he comes back to free the Israelites. He's able to do it with the miracles and plagues that he unleashes on Egypt with God's help. They leave and they cross the Red Sea that's parted by Giad, and they go to the land flowing with milk and honey. And that's the story of Moses. Our second covering of this, of course,
Yeah.
we did the 12 Commandments as well.
Did you say 12 commandments?
He did.
I did. It's the 10 Commandments.
Just to a reminder for those that aren't used to our bonus episode format, Proto is winging these intros on the bonus episodes. There's no, he's going off the top of the head, and he nailed it.
Our local
obviously.
theologian.
Yes. Maybe I need to add that to the intro at some point.
Resident theologian, Proto-Lexus.
So Prince of Egypt, Danny, what's your backstory? You've probably seen this a bunch, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I've seen this so many times. I don't remember the first time we saw it. I feel like I was young, probably in the 98 era
High
of
school.
seeing this. VHS, probably, clamshell. I think I actually have it. I do. Yeah, I've just seen this forever. This music is incredible. The animation was something that I was really drawn to then. Continually look to this as some sort of inspirational. I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a great story. It's a big story. It's actually told well to you can be a believer, you can not be a believer. There's a lot of stuff to connect to this outside of just being a Christian and enjoying this film.
Mm-hmm. Proto?
Yeah, I've watched this many times. I've always really enjoyed this, and of course, with my upbringing, it kind of held a special place in my heart. So just like this story is so familiar to me. Yeah, so I have, vivid memories of watching this with my siblings growing up.
I don't know why I'd never seen this. I feel like this is probably somewhere in my wheelhouse around 1998. I don't know what the heck I was doing in 1998. I guess I was...
You weren't an altar boy anymore.
No, I wasn't. Maybe I was rebelling. I was like a rebel in high school.
Yeah, the rebel atheist, our local rebel atheist.
The local friendless, nerdy rebel who was no longer an altar boy.
What a title.
Oh, God. 1998. I guess, I'm trying to think. Is that sophomore?
High school.
Yeah, sophomore.
Yeah.
Graduated in 2001. Yeah, and I'd never heard of any of the songs. I don't know. I think I knew that this was like DreamWorks' big movie. This isn't a Disney movie. This is Katzenberg and Spielberg. And what's the other one? Geffen. They made their own studio, and this was like one of their big releases soon after forming. So I don't think I was like a DreamWorks guy. I'm not sure if anyone called themselves a DreamWorks guy back then, but maybe I wasn't.
I'm looking at their releases now, and on Wikipedia it says their first release was the same year was Ants.
Oh,
Woof.
God.
Which I remember that, I think, wasn't that like the same time as A Bug's Life?
Ants versus Buzz Life, yeah.
Yeah, and Ants was like the bizarro version of that. It's like, oh,
Right.
we're not watching that. We have A Bug's Life.
We have a Bug's Life at home. It's ants.
So that came out in October, and then Prince of Egypt came out that December.
Wow.
And then 2 years later was The Road to El Dorado, then Chicken Run, and then 2001 Shrek came out.
Yeah, I did read, I'm sure this will come up, but I did read that like Katzenberg was at the forefront of, CGI, computer generated graphics. Like at a certain point, I think he made like a statement that like, we're not doing 2D animation movies. We're only doing computer animated. And then also at a certain point, he made the statement that like all of our movies will be released in 3D from now on.
That's
Wow.
wild.
And then he formed Quibi. And we know how that went. But so we'll go around the room. Each host jots some things down. We'll have a roundtable discussion, go through our main points. So, Danny, what's the number one thing you want to talk about on this viewing?
I think the one thing I would love to talk about is because this was the first 4K viewing for me of this. I hadn't seen the 4K yet since it was released. I don't remember when it was released. And always watching it, I always felt like there was a definite... Before the 4K, there was a definite break in the 2D animation with the CG added effects. And it never really took me out of it. It was just like an obvious kind of thing when it comes to the water or, parting the Red Sea, or when the blood in the Nile and kind of stuff like that. I think that was the Nile. I thought the CG kind of stuck out as like an after kind of thought. It felt for this movie. The 4K, I don't know what they did, but it's almost seamless. The blending of the two styles. And I was a bit taken back and kind of in awe of what I was watching. I think it's the prominent scene is the parting of the Red Sea, and the way the 2D animation interacts with the CG in that scene is incredible. It's almost to where I would It's like I want to compare this to Across the Spider-Verse or the Spider-Verse movies with 2D and 3D seamlessly kind of working together. There are moments where Moses is either looking back at Ramsey and the army coming, and there's the painted skies and how it's flowing behind him. And it's just, I don't think I've ever seen it this way before. The clarity of this movie, and it's something incredible.
Mm-hmm. I think the 4K actually came out this year.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Because I remember people were really upset that the 20th anniversary was a Nothing Burger Blu-ray release, and almost disrespectful to the story. I think the kind of like art style, like it came out very cartoony packaging, and this isn't like this isn't a silly movie for. I mean, it's not like bad for kids to see, but like this is more serious than like Ants or Shrek or something, and it looked like a Shrek DVD Blu-ray release basically. So I think people were upset with that. So I'm glad that the 25th was this 4K release because it's incredible. I was beside myself with some of these shots.
Did you watch 4K part or did you watch it on Peacock?
I watched it actually on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
so
did you rent it on Prime?
No, it's just available to stream, and it doesn't say that it's 4K on here. But
I would say UHD, I think.
Yeah. So I don't think it was. But I still think it's, it still looks gorgeous. I'd love to watch the 4K.
The version on Peacock, I think, is the new restoration. And I was floored by how good this movie looked in 2023. Like absolutely floored. Yeah. And you DM'd us last night about how you watched the 4K. I was kind of pissed off that I'm like, oh, damn it. I don't know if I'll have enough time to rewatch this in 4K, but it's on Peacock, and I'm nearly positive it's the same restoration. I'm not sure if they have a 4K available on Peacock, but it looks clean as hell. And I thought the same thing about the 3D animation. It looks really well done. Like, I don't know if they just like went over all the 3D aspects again with like a new coat of updated, make this blend in more paint than they had in 1998, but it looked really good.
They invented an animation style for this film where it's 3D rendered objects, but all of the texturing of the rendering is hand done, painted things. And so what they created was a sort of camera panning type sitch where the backgrounds and every sort of landscape around the 2D characters could bend as they turn the character. So instead of a flat matte background, kind of just allowing just back there, the camera angles that they chose would warp the back of their 2D animated painted stuff to fit a more like depth into the animated style. It's hard to really explain. I know there's a making of that I've seen where you can watch how it works, but it helps that it's not just 3D animated objects. It's a 3D animated shape that's 2D work has been placed on it.
Right.
And I think it blends really well in this film.
Yeah, there's a shot towards the end where the camera spins around Moses, like while I think he's like looking down the mountain, and it's amazing.
It's insane.
It looks incredible.
Yeah.
Frodo, what's the top of your list?
The top of my list is the score for this movie and the original songs. The opening to this movie, Deliver Us, I get full body chills every time I watch this. Like, it just, I love it so much. I think it's incredible. I love that song. I also love the one, I always forget the name, but it's towards the end where it's kind of like the dynamic of Moses and Ramses. That song also is amazing, but really the whole thing throughout it, the vocals on it are just incredible. The one thing I don't love though is the the two the pharaohs,
Martin Short,
Martin and
Steve
yeah,
Martin.
they do the playing with the big boys now.
Yeah.
That feels like they're just trying to imitate Disney in that scene.
Mm.
Like do like one of the
very
funny
Aladdin type scene.
Yeah, very Aladdin in that, and that kind of I think falls on its face. But the visuals of that scene are awesome. I love it. But other than that, I think the score is just magic.
It's funny. Like when I want to see like Katzberg say like, we need some comedy in this movie. Can we just add Martin Short and Steve Martin as little characters, and they have a song and they're making jokes? I did like how, I was thinking back to the Ten Commandments movie with Charlton Heston about how nonplussed people were when he turned the staff into a snake.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, that? Yeah, we have someone that can do that too. And they do the same thing. I'm like, what is going on? In that movie, it was so weird. But in this one, I like their version of like, we can do that trickery too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, the songs are nuts. Deliver Us. Moses, was it All I Ever Wanted?
All I Ever Wanted is a banger.
Are you kidding me?
That whole sequence is ridiculous.
Are you kidding me?
Gleaming in the moonlight, cool and clean, and all I've ever known, all I ever wanted. Sweet perfumes of incense, graceful rooms of alabaster stone, all I ever wanted. This is my home, with my father, mother, brother, oh so noble, oh so strong.
But also the Hans Zimmer score, that like thread of music that he has, it's incredible. Like we're talking Disney level stuff. And that really falls into my main point. Like, this feels like a Disney Renaissance movie.
Yes.
Like an alternate universe Disney Renaissance movie. The animation in this film is insane. It's gorgeous. I can't believe, it's such a weird movie to me that like another rival studio to Disney made a 2D animated movie this good with music and characters. It's just so wild that it exists. And I'm wondering, like, I don't know, at least to me, I don't really hear people talk about Prince of Egypt. And I'm guessing it's because of the subject matter. Like, would this movie even be made today? Like, how much money would it make? I don't know. It would just be like in today's climate. I'm just like wondering what that experience would be like. Would a major studio take a risk to make a Ten Commandments animated movie? So like looking back, I just think about that stuff, and I did watch that making of the 25-minute. I think
nice.
it's on YouTube, and they have, Sandra Bullock, Val Kilmer, Michelle Pfeiffer doing the voice cast. That's like one other thing that feels extremely dated. Like that would never happen today. I mean, I would hope that would never happen today. I will say that, the voice cast is insane. It's incredible, but there's no, diversity really in the cast. Danny Glover is in it. But hearing them talk about like the 10 Commandments and the story of Moses, I don't know, it just feels like such a different era where I don't know how to explain it. Like you just wouldn't see that today, really, in my opinion. But all of that to say, it's just bonkers to me how good this looks. You could easily put this up next to Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. It's that good, folks. It's on Peacock right now and Prime. I don't know what the hell when this episode comes out. I don't know if it'll still be there, but I definitely want to see the 4K to see what that looks like. Because I specifically moved to a different room, one of my like HD TV rooms. But man, I have to put this on the OLED.
Mm-hmm.
This 4K on the LG OLED in the basement.
Gotta run.
Wow.
I agree with you, Slim. I think the perspective of Christianity as a whole from 98 to 2023 has shifted the way it's viewed and what studio would even bother putting this out. And I feel like it would be the Left Behind studios or the fringe kind of studios. Right. And I don't even think they would give the care of telling the story in a way that this was done. Like even this is handled so well that you can be a believer or not a believer in Christianity. And you can look at this as a a great mythology type story, and it's still a banger of a story. I think the addition of Moses and Ramsey's their brotherhood storyline in this is what kind of helps a lot of it, because I think it shows a lot of the motivation for the characters outside of just like, God told me to do this. Like a lot of Moses's like emotional beats are because he loves his brother. And I find that very impressive of an addition to the story. I don't know. My theology I don't know much about Moses and Ramsey as a brothers type storyline, if it's biblical at all, but I don't see this happening again. I don't see a story like this happening again. And I also agree, I would put this over a lot of the Disney Renaissance movies. As far as style, I think Disney found their style and made amazing bangers, but there's something about this as a whole, as a piece of art, it's better than a lot of Disney's movies at the time.
Yeah, going back to what you were saying, Slim, about that, would a movie like this work? I don't know in '98 what the response was. I was 11, and of course, in my circles, it was like, "Oh, The Prince of Egypt, this is great." It's a Hollywood production about a Bible story. So there was a lot of hype around it, and I feel like the last time we've had something like that is maybe The Passion of the Christ, which was also like a cultural moment, at least from where I was, like my perspective. It was like everyone was seeing this. And I feel like we haven't had another thing like that. So maybe like Passion of the Christ 2 will be a test to
Electric
see.
Boogaloo.
But also there's like the Mel Gibson aspect to it. So who knows? Yeah, it might not be possible in the same way anymore. But I could see in '98, like they're starting a new studio and they're like, what's an easy win for us? Well, if we do like a sincere, earnest, high-level production of a Bible story, we'll get a large portion of the population that'll be invested in it. So it seems like it would have made sense then to do what they did.
I mean, today, if it gets made, the director, the backer of the movie is going to get arrested for child trafficking probably like 6 months later. Or murdering his own firstborn son, probably. That'll be like the big reveal. Idiots. The making of documentary, Katzenberg was retelling the story of like coming up with the idea. He's like, I was sitting with Steven Spielberg and we're thinking about what movies to do, big movies. And he goes, what about the 10 Commandments? And my jaw dropped. It's the worst story ever. Katzenberg's telling. I even like looked up because he's such a fascinating character to me. Modern day Katzenberg is considered largely a joke because of the Quibi stuff and he lost like $2 billion in like half a year or whatever on Quibi.
Jeez.
But his like rise to prominence in the Disney empire is fascinating to me. I was on the Wikipedia trying to see like, what happened to this guy? Because he was like in line at Disney. But apparently like Roy Disney, Danny will probably maybe add some color to this, but Roy Disney like really did not like Katzenberg. And there's even a quote from board member Stanley Gold. Eisner said he was in line if a guy left, like for a high ranking position. That guy died and Eisner took the job. He didn't give it to Katzenberg. And eventually after he left, Stanley Gold has this quote here. His ego and almost pathological need to be important brought him down.
Roy said that?
No, not Roy. Stanley Gold, a Disney board member. So there's just something about Katzenberg that just rubbed people completely the wrong way at Disney and the important people at Disney the wrong way. So I don't know, Danny, do you have any like insight into Katzenberg at Disney, or did you track him and like where he went around that time?
No, I wasn't even tracking at that time. I know around that time there was like a battle between Roy and I forget who else for the chair of the company. So I think there was just a lot of turmoil at Disney as far as who was leading what, especially when oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. The guy that pretty much the CEO that was Eisner's partner died in that helicopter crash.
Yeah. Wells.
Yeah. When Wells died, Eisner was which is why we get kind of loose cannon Eisner. Anyway, we don't have to get Disney history, but yes, I think at the time there was a lot of like either fighting for the chair of Disney, and Eisner was not doing well after Wells died. And yeah, I can see Katzenberg getting caught up in all that nonsense.
Yeah, vice chairman, I think, was the role he wanted. And there was like some stories Who knows how true that Katzenberg was like taking more credit than he deserved for the Disney Renaissance films, and like a lot of those hits.
Yeah.
He was kind of claiming ownership of those. Who knows?
I'm looking at the Wikipedia with the list of DreamWorks productions, and on this list in 2002 is Spirit, and it says writers. It says based on an idea by Jeffrey Katzenberg. So the fact that his suit forced an idea that he had to turn into a movie, and it's a movie. I mean, Spirit. It's no one ever talks about it.
No.
Yeah.
No one's ever really watched it. That tells me all I need to know.
Case closed on the Book of Fruit. Danny, what's next on your list? Or if you had another thing to say before I interrupted you about Katzenberg.
I was just thinking about a comment that I remember from that documentary where they say either they're like comparing the styles of the animation, and they talk about how the scale of it is they thought of it compared to David Lean and what he did. And I'm just like, oh yeah, I can see that. And so many of the Exodus moments of comparing it to a David Lean film.
And credit to Katzenberg, there was a couple points where he has said that he gave them like creative freedom to run the show, to make something like this.
Imagine giving creative freedom to creative people.
I mean, a wild thought.
Dangerous.
I know. What happens when Suits gets involved?
Next on your list, Dan?
Next on my list, I mean, imagine trying to animate Jeff Goldblum's mannerisms.
Oh my God.
I can't believe how they nail it. When you first see Aaron and Miriam, when they run into Moses outside of their house and he's trying to stop her, just the facial, we know what Goldblum looks like in his mannerisms, his eye movement, his mouth, his hands. The way they animate Aaron is like, you would have told me they put Goldblum in a mocap suit, I would believe you. It's just really, really well done. And I think about it every time Aaron comes on the screen. I'm like, oh, they had to animate Goldblum because there's no way around that. There's no way of not getting, because he's such an animated character in real life. And I'm just baffled by, I'm always just pleasantly surprised by it, no matter how many times I've seen this film.
Yeah. He's in the documentary too, like talking about how wild it was to see himself in that Jeff Goldblum voice. He's sitting there in his suit. I love how in the doc, like they showed, there's like a screen of the animated character they were, like to show you like, oh, that's who they were in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, the pre-mocap folks, they're drawing this stuff by hand. That's how they did things.
Yeah, I love the character design in this too. It's pretty wonky, just like the way they portray them, where like they're really long faces, their foreheads are too short. It like anatomically, it doesn't really make sense, but it just works so well. And maybe in some ways, it feels like almost it's like mimicking maybe like Egyptian art. But I know like they continued on with the style in their other movies as well. But it does help to set them apart. Like you can see it and it's like a DreamWorks movie.
Yeah. I mean, what was they said that they were filming or creating concurrently the Joseph movie that came out like the next year. Have you ever seen that one?
No, I never saw Joseph.
I don't have any memory of that.
There's a great anecdote about the like early screenings that they showed to executives. And it was like, they said it was deafeningly quiet after the lights came up. They had to walk to a room to get like feedback from the executives. And Katzenberg said, quote, "Nothing made sense." And the director apparently was like mortified about how far into production they were at that point to get that feedback from Katzenberg.
No. Oh my God.
Prado, what's next on your list?
Well, Danny, you mentioned it earlier, the Moses and Ramses dynamic, and I really love that in this too. And I think it's a stroke of genius to add it to the story, because I did go back and I read like the first 3 chapters of Exodus just to kind of give a refresher.
Local theologian.
Which you can read in about 5 minutes. It's super short. This whole story is like 500 words in the Bible. It's like very, very short.
Yeah.
And this is completely fabricated for the movie. Like there's no mention of this at all, which I don't remember being a big deal.
Right.
When this came out, because Christians are notoriously like sticklers for things that aren't accurate in the movies that represent the Bible. Like I clearly remember a conversation of some dad saying, well, in the Bible, it doesn't say that Moses put his staff into the Nile to turn it to blood, and they did it in this movie.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
But I love that aspect of this story, and I love how it's like revealed to Moses, that dream sequence that he has. Like, first he goes, he meets Aaron and his sister, and then they kind of like, hey, you're our brother, and he's shocked by this. Then he goes back and he has this dream, and it's about the killing of the Hebrew boys, and it has that great it's like on the Egyptian hieroglyphs art scene, and then he like goes and he finds the mural, and then he has that moment with the Pharaoh, and he has a great line. It was like they're just slaves anyway, or something like that. Oh yeah, after all, they were only slaves. And he has like this, this moment of where he's struck by that, and you can really feel the pull, the push and pull of his relationship with Ramses through all this. And I think it's so well done. It really hits the emotional chords as I watch this every time. It works for me.
I think Ralph Fiennes and Val Kilmer's also their acting work, their voice acting work is phenomenal in this. There's a lot of passion in these characters. You can tell through their performances that they really loved what they were doing too.
Didn't you get scolded in an earlier episode for calling him Ralph?
And you think I'm not going to stop because of that?
If you think I'm going to pronounce
now.
the name, he wants it, you got another thing coming.
Yeah. And so Ralph comes on this show and corrects me.
Come on over, R. Fines, if you want to talk about it. Yeah, I love the connection between the brothers. That was like my first note. I was like, oh yeah, this is a great idea. There's even like a warning to start the movie that they took artistic liberties. They're like, calm down, Christians.
Yeah.
We're just going to make a good story.
Back.
Yeah, please. Ramesses, right? Didn't they even say like
Ramesses?
Ramesses. They didn't even call him Ramses.
When he returns the ring to him is like one of my favorite moments. The music beat when he picks the ring back up and holds it, and then he opens his eyes and like the music kicks in hard. I'm like, oh my God, just the chills. Just smart stuff. Simple, smart stuff.
Yeah, there's his also like Moses's reaction to like finding out that that could actually be his family, and as soon as he has that dream, it kind of like wakes him up that like, wait a minute, my family are slaves. It like flips his view of everything on its head. I thought that was pretty interesting to see what actually would make him realize that, maybe slaves are bad. Maybe this isn't a good idea.
It's a great moment too when he's walking back through and he's looking at through fresh eyes now, and the slaves are looking back at him. They hit him with the mud, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And Miriam pulls him out of the mud. It's just, that bit of storytelling is well done.
The hieroglyphic stuff is wild. Those sequences, man, I'm talking OG Disney Renaissance, folks.
Yeah.
Okay? You can be agnostic like me and still see it in this movie. Still see the work that went into this. So they say like 4 years it took them to start and complete this movie. Ay caramba.
And developing new tech. It's just wild.
It was also interesting too. They were talking about the sea scene and how much like rendering time it took to complete the movie. He was saying how it took like 100,000 hours of rendering time.
Oh my God.
And he's like, that's double than Titanic. It was like some insane stat.
Suck it, James Cameron.
Danny, final point?
I know I've talked about animation a lot, but I'm going to bring up one more point that I find always fascinating about the animation is how they are able to animate the scale of things and the texture of things, and how everything felt. You could feel it, and you could see, you can feel the textures and visually see like the scale of what's happening, even if it's just like landscapes. Or there's a moment where I think it's Moses, and he trips his foot on this like sharp rock. You can feel that, how it's animated really well. And I'm impressed by this animation. I'm jealous of people who got to work on it because it just feels like an amazingly collaborative kind of environment where they're just, creatives being creative and allowing them to make this kind of incredible piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Whitney and Mariah singing "Will You Believe?"
Oh my God, when that
Would you
that was
believe?
nuts too in the
Gripes.
documentary. Now, the co-director, was it Brenda Chapman?
Hmm.
She was the co-director of this. She was like head of story for the original Lion King. So it was like I think she was the first woman to ever do that.
Mhm.
And then she was the co-director of this, and she went on to do Brave.
Yeah.
Is that the one that you like, or do you like Tangled? I can't remember. Which
I
one
like
you
both quite
I
a
like
bit. Brave is an underrated Pixar banger,
Mm.
but it was Pixar's first princess movie.
Oh.
That gets confused for a Disney movie, which Pixar's Disney, etc. But it's a Pixar
Gotcha.
film.
Yeah, the scenes of like the lead animators, the background animators go to Death Valley and with their paint, like literal easels
Mm.
and painting the backdrops to get inspired for the backdrops of Egypt. It's crazy to see.
It's a lost art, and we're not even that far removed from this kind of stuff. And it feels like absolutely no one's doing this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the scene where Moses, he flees from Egypt and he's in the desert. And it's just like a montage of 5 or 6 moments of him going through a landscape and just the size and the scale that's like shown of the desert and just like looks like completely different environments, but it's still the same desert. You can just tell that whoever was working on this like loved what they were doing.
Mhm.
And it's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that scene. And then also the scene in the beginning where Ramses and Moses see Pharaoh and that backdrop of Egypt with the
my
Nile
God.
and the statues. My God, it's amazing.
It's porno. It's absolute
It's
porno.
Christian porno.
It's Christian and animation porno. I mean, when they have like the head of the statue there, like that shot, my jaw that was like the first 30 seconds and my
I
jaw
know.
was on the floor. I was like, what? My God. Yeah, that scene where he's like on his knees and the sand envelops him and he allows it to happen. That's an insane shot.
I think also, I forgot to look this up. I don't know if they say it in the documentary. When there's the burning bush scene, which is also a beautiful scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said it was Val's voice as God speaking back to Moses, who was also Val's voice,
Yeah.
which is, I just love that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They said this, like they wanted it to be obvious that God was speaking to Moses, but through Moses's mind, or like they had like this way to phrase it that it wasn't like he's just doing the same voice. It was like it's himself speaking back to him,
Yeah.
through God, which I thought was interesting. Fredo?
My last point, I know we were saying would a movie about a Bible story work in this day and age? But, after watching this, and I think I said it when we did Ten Commandments, I want more Bible stories.
Mm.
I think there's so many good stories in the Bible. It gives you just like a good template. So many of the stories in the Bible are just kind of like these almost like plot points. And then in the way they do it in this movie is like they have these big plot points. I mean, in a lot of ways you could boil this down to like it's an underdog story in a lot of ways. Like it's a savior saving his own people. So the bones of it are so good. And there's so many stories like that in the Bible that are good in that way and that are just like epic and huge and feel great. So I guess, partly would be my question of like, what if there's any stories that you guys would want to see? I think to me, it still amazes me that there's never been like a blockbuster David movie.
Oh yeah.
Because like David, I mean, you could make 6 movies about David.
Who's David?
There's King David with David and Goliath.
Oh.
I mean, he has so many amazing moments in the Bible. I mean, Solomon as well. It's just like ripe for taking. They're always looking for like new stories to tell. It's like it's all right there.
Mm.
Like you could have these amazing stories. If it would work, if it would be accepted by the public, that's another question. but I would love to see it.
I think a rad story would be kind of like Judas, leading up and through all the moments of him and Jesus.
The original Joker. Joaquin Phoenix as Judas. Oh my God.
Can you imagine? I don't know. I agree. I think there's a lot. I don't think there's anyone willing to take the risk. That is the level of Disney, DreamWorks, etc.
Yeah.
Whose country is this? It's mine. Joaquin.
What an episode that was when we covered Napoleon.
Right down the middle, our opinions on that episode. I was going to add on to your thoughts, but now I can't remember what the heck it was. Oh yeah, I guess this is like one thing I always struggle with like all this stuff is like the age-old question: why do bad things happen to good people?
Mm-hmm.
And they're enslaved. They're still believing in a God, and Goldblum even says, Aaron, like, God, when did he start caring about any of us?
Mm-hmm.
And so like Moses is like trying to free them, but also like trying to like, I guess, save God's ass a little bit. That like, well, I'm here now. He hasn't done anything for you in your entire life, but I'm here now. And his sister even like kind of comes to Moses' side and says, God won't abandon you, so you don't abandon us. So like, it's almost like they see in Moses what they are not getting from God. I don't know. It like the marrying of their faith to see that God has given that strength to someone. It's not them. So they're giving their strength to that person instead to try to like lead them out of this like huge, just depressing era. I mean, it just speaks to like, I just find the whole thing of that, the faith of believing in someone that is, for better or worse, isn't doing you really any favors. You still have that faith in them. So I was like wondering how they were going to do that in this movie. And I thought that was a fascinating little conversation between his sister and himself about how they directed their faith to Moses in those times. So that's my final point.
There's also a line where she says, God hasn't answered my prayers at all until now, until you or something, which I thought was a great little line about prayer and God answering them at all.
Right.
Yeah. Also at the end, or in the midst when I think the plagues start, Moses tells them like he can take everything, but he can't take away your faith. Mm-hmm. So it's like no matter what happens in your life, your faith in like whatever you choose to put it in is still in your control. Like no one can take that from you.
Right. God might murder firstborns, but your faith, no one can take that.
Yeah.
He'll take your firstborn, but he can't take your faith. Honorable mentions, final rating, Danny?
Honorable mentions, Through Heaven's Eyes is such a banger sequence moment in Moses becoming who he really is, mirroring Michelle Pfeiffer. I mean, this is always going to be a 5-star movie for me. I rank it higher than most of Disney's Renaissance films. I think this is, as a piece of art, it's one of the best animated films and most underrated films I think we've ever gotten. I think it's overlooked because of the religious aspect, and that's totally fine. It's valid. I wish people would kind of give it a little bit of a chance and just see the art form for itself. And even the story itself, I feel like isn't overtly shoving God down your throat as well as much as it could have been, which I think is what they would probably do these days. So yeah, 5 stars. This is a gorgeous film and beautifully scored, and so many amazing, well thought out songs that were written for this film.
Yeah. Proto?
I love the scene where Moses comes off the mountain to tell Zipporah what happened, but it's like a wordless scene.
Yeah.
It's just like the music kicks in and and it's just him, describing it through like hand motions and stuff. That's such a well set up scene. I love that. In my heart, you are my brother, but you know that it cannot be as it once were. Love that line. CGI frogs. I think that was the one thing that kind of they might have let the intern do that one. The shadow of death, though, moving through the city looked amazing. I love that scene. I love how that's like shown. I love so when Moses finds the murals, it's like him holding the torch and he's in between like the crocodiles with the babies tumbling down. Yeah. And then at the end, it's the shot of Ramses holding his own son in front of the same mural.
Yeah.
It's great. The splitting of the Red Sea, it looks incredible. Just the scale. Yeah. Like you guys were saying, like that feels like David Lean-esque.
The shot of the whale. I mean, can we get that in a museum? Like just that entire frame, maybe the real art, put it in a museum, please.
Yeah, I'm at 5 stars too. This movie, it holds a special place in my heart. I grew up watching it. It's sentimental in that way, but I think it's a masterpiece at the same time.
I loved the progression of his hair growing when he left. Also, when he took like the wig off, and I was like, "Damn, that was a wig." And he had like short hair underneath. I thought that's just how his hair was cut. He looked great. He had so many great hairstyles. He had great hair, curly hair. God, Moses. When Ramses' son is taken, like that entire scene with the light coming from the top of that room, the white light, and they're in the shadows. Come off it, folks. Just come off it. Also, Moses reacting to his nephew having to have been killed for this to happen, for them to, be allowed to leave for a bit anyway. There's a part in the documentary where they said they like animated a lot or most or all of those people making the journey to the sea. Like they were moving and they like each person was designed. It's just like, oh my God, I can't handle this. My brain can't take it. The amount of compute power needed to power
more than Titanic.
More compute power than on the Titanic. I was shocked that this was 90 minutes because like we're at the sea and I'm like, wait, are we not getting the 10 Commandments? Because the 10 Commandments aren't really a part of this movie. It's like the end. Like it's a montage of him walking down with the 12 commandments, as it were. And that's like the end of the movie. And I loved it. 90 minutes. I mean, them not going whole hog into like another 30 minutes of the 10 commandments is pretty crazy in my opinion. The final shot of Ramesses screaming on that rock. Oh my God, what a story. What a friggin' story. So yeah, I don't have any like nostalgia for this movie and seeing it a bunch of times. But I mean, as I've mentioned several times, I was completely stunned about watching this movie. It should be, people need to see this thing. Like if you're a fan of animated movies, like the Disney Renaissance era, and you have not seen this movie, you need to fire this bad boy up, folks. This is a 5-bang.
Oh my God.
Easy 5. I was like 5-banging the first minute of this movie.
All I've ever wanted.
I just rededicated my life to Slim.
I cannot believe the talent that was working on this movie. It's streaming as a recording. Who knows when this episode's out? As of streaming, as a recording. It's streaming on several places. Get the 4K. I need to get my hands on the 4K. I need to watch it. Katzenberg, he was doing something right.
He got one thing right.
He got one thing right, and it was Prince of Persia. It was all downhill. It was the Prince of Egypt. Prince of Persia. I don't know if Katzenberg was related to that game. But yeah, amazing film. Fantastic. So next week.
It's Christmas.
No, Christmas was last
Last week.
Next
Happy New Year.
week is episode 200. We talked about the top, Parasite. When was the last time we saw Parasite? Was that when it came out, I guess?
Yeah, I've only seen it once in theaters. And this is, Parasite's been a movie we've talked about covering many, many times. It's almost been covered a couple times. So I cannot wait to rewatch this.
Danny's art for Parasite, mama mia.
I'm stressed about doing art for this.
It's almost time. No, you have like more than almost 2 months to complete the art.
You're right.
For
That's
this.
true.
But we're looking at it now. Wow, it's amazing.
Oh my God, the art.
my
You seeing
God.
this?
God.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. I hope folks had a fun December. We certainly had a fun December recording these episodes. Hopefully we had a great little month-long break to recharge our batteries. And we will see everybody next week for episode 200. 70mm is a tape deck production featuring original artwork provided by Danny Haas. Spiritual guidance and V'ger, the robot who loves movies, provided by Pertalexis. Producer at large, Dale_A. And music composed by Cinematrix. Prints and other merch are available on 70mmpod.com. This episode was mixed, edited, and produced by me, Slim. Support our Patreon for access to our VHS Village Discord to talk movies with new friends, access to our exclusive episodes in the 70mm vault, discounts on merch, uncut episodes, and a physical membership card mailed to you. To check out other Tape Deck podcasts, find the link in the episode notes. And if you'd like to support our friends at Letterboxd and upgrade to pro or patron status, you can do so with a 20% off discount using the links on 70mmpod.com. Goodbye.
This is a Tape Deck podcast.